Kiyotaka Ayanokoji joins the school in Class 1D at the Tokyo Metropolitan Advanced Nurturing High School, an institution established by the government for training best students. Class D's homeroom teacher, Sae Chabashira, explains the point system as money, where everybody gets a monthly allowance of 100,000 points at local shops, with 1 point equaling 1 yen. She warns the students that they are judged on merit. Kiyotaka navigates the system, being careful about how he spends the points, while meeting the gregarious Kikyo Kushida and attempting to make peace with his selfish classmate Suzune Horikita, in an attempt to help Kushida become friends with Suzune. Kiyotaka brings them to a cafeteria, having secretly invited them and 2 other classmates. However, Suzune sees through the plan and leaves them. On April 30th, the majority of Class D lavishly spends their points and slacks off in class without reprimanding, making Kiyotaka suspicious. On May 1st, the Class D students are surprised to find out they did not get any allowance, and Chabashira explains that it depends on merit. After ignoring their studies, the class lacks points for a month. Chabashira explains how the system works at school. The 4 first-year classes are all ranked by merit, and Class D has the opportunity to be promoted to Class C with strong performances on exams. She warns that with the current situation, anybody who fails the exam will be expelled. Being aware of the system, everyone takes their studies often, except Ken Sudo, Kenji Iki, and Haruki Hamachi. Kiyotaka and Suzune discuss these matters, and she asks him to bring the boys aboard her study group in the library. Kiyotaka and Kushida fail to invite them due to Suzune's selfishness, while Sudo lets everybody know he wants to play basketball. He has no interest in his studies. That night, Kiyotaka overhears Suzune talking to her brother and student council president, Manabu. He threatens her over a disagreement about a misplaced view about independent isolation. Kiyotaka intervenes, and Manabu reveals that he scored 50 points on every test and asks if it was a coincidence or not. The midterm exams come, and Class D as a whole performs very well with some points among the first years at school. Class D gets the results of their last exam and everyone passes except for Sudo, who missed the passing threshold by 1 point. The grades were the result of Kiyotaka spending 15,000 points to buy exam questions from an upperclassman 3 days earlier. He explains that none of this is against school rules. Later, Kiyotaka discovers Chabashira asking her whether equality exists, and she answers that it does not, and Kiyotaka agrees. Kiyotaka and Suzune spend their points to increase the test score by 1 point, so Sudo can stay in class. Kushida inadvertently leaves her cell phone, but while returning the cell phone to her, he ends up finding out about the jealous, nasty, and irascible side of her personality. Kushida asks Kiyotaka to keep it a secret, or else she will accuse him of raping her. On July 1st, Class D's point distribution is put on hold due to an incident the previous day involving Sudo and 3 basketball teammates from Class C. Sudo was attacked and fought back in self-defense. However, due to poor reputation, he will be liable unless the class can find a witness to clear his name before the hearing next week, which would consequently result in the class receiving no points for the month. In an attempt to manipulate the case in their favor, the 3 Class C attackers secretly request classmate Kakeru Ruin to attack them. With the help of Class B, the Class D students post messages asking for witnesses of the incident. Suzune tells Kiyotaka and the others that Iri Sakura was there and witnessed the incident with the camera. That night, Kiyotaka and Kushida discuss the truth. If one of the suspects is a killer, while the other is a law-abiding citizen, if there is a lack of evidence, people are more likely going to believe the law-abiding citizen even if they are guilty. The next day, Sakura is approached for the evidence, and she inadvertently drops the camera. She freaks out when she cannot use it, thinking that she broke it, and continues running, not wanting to get involved. Sakura, Kiyotaka, and Kushida inspect the camera covered under warranty at the electronics store. The store clerk asks Sakura about her contact information, but Kiyotaka uses his information instead. Kiyotaka figures out that Sakura is the internet model that became a big hit recently. At the hearing presided by Manabu, both classes give their testimonies accusing each other of instigating the fight, with the initial ruling going in Class C's favor. After staying silent, Suzune speaks up after Kiyotaka reminds her. Suzune asks what the circumstances were for the fight and points out that in a 3-against-1 fight, it is nearly impossible for injuries that serious to be all Sudo's doing. She presents Sakura as a witness, providing evidence that she was present as she captured the fight going on in the background during a photo shoot. However, The evidence only proves that she was present and does not clear Sudo of any wrongdoing. The Class C homeroom teacher Sakagami proposes a compromise to suspend Sudo for 2 weeks and the 3 Class C students for 1 week each. But Class D rejects it, realizing that one side is clearly lying. Manabu ends the hearing, saying he will announce his decision the next day unless admissions or additional evidence is presented. He mentions that he can expel any students. Sakura returns to the dormitory and finds the photos in a mailbox, taking advantage of the delay in the final ruling that was made possible with the photo. Kiyotaka and Suzune set up a trap at the stairwell. Kushida sends a fake message to 3 Class C students, ordering them to meet her at the special annex in order to draw them to the stairwell, where Kiyotaka and Suzune are waiting, and Honami Ichinase installed security cameras. This helps them trick the Class C students into believing neither side stands to gain by going forward with this complaint, and that the trio stands to get expelled because they told a malicious lie that got the school involved. As a result, the Class C students agree to withdraw the complaint. Afterwards, the electronics store clerk and a big fan of the net alter ego Shizuku attacks Sakura. But Kiyotaka and Ichinase arrive to save her using the tracking feature in their phones and the security cameras to arrest the clerk. Shabashira mentions to Suzune that Class D is a place for defectives in the school, and that Kiyotaka is one of them in her opinion. Manabu attempts to convince Kiyotaka to join the student council, but he refuses while deferring the credit for settling the case to Suzune. Kiyotaka and Suzune plan to help the others reach Class A while studying at the dormitory room for summer vacation. Suzune is invited to the pool by Kiyotaka. Last night, a group of Class D students, consisting of Kiyotaka, Sudo, Iki, Yamachi, and Operation Leader Hideo Sotomura, meet up to discuss preparations for peeping on the girls inside the changing room. During the trip, Sotomura observes the boys from the general storehouse, while communicating with transceivers and hand signals, with everyone invited. Yamachi sneaks into the women's changing room as a janitor to secretly install the cameras under the pretense of closing it for cleaning. However, he has trouble doing it, and Iki enters there. Ruin and students of Class C approach the changing room. While Iki is still in, needing help to escape, Sudo prevents Ruin from entering the room, in order to stall for time, while students of Class A arrive to start a fight. Manabu reminds everybody they are still being judged, as long as they are on school grounds. Sotomura informs Kiyotaka about the situation, and Suzune stands on the top of a diving platform to have a speech about Class D ascending to Class A someday. With the others distracted, Iki leaves the changing room unnoticed, and Suzune removes all SD cards from the cameras to foil the operation. Kiyotaka tells Suzune that he used her rather than other classmates, due to the possibility they would have done it behind his back. For a class trip, all first-year students are taken on a luxurious cruise ship. Kiyotaka finds out from Chabashira that an unknown man had contacted the school asking for him to be expelled. Chabashira offers to cover for him in order for him to reach Class A, suspecting that she may be manipulating him. He refuses, but she warns him that if he does, he will be expelled and stripped of his freedom. Later, Kiyotaka discusses with Suzune about the trip's destination. He tells her that he suspects the school is taking them to a boarding house on an island owned by the school for an ulterior motive. Ruin tries to manipulate Suzune about the security camera setup. Another student from Class C, Mio Ibuki, tries to confront Ruin about something, but they are rebuffed by Albert. Suzune remarks that Class C could be on the verge of collapsing from the inside. Later, Sakura asks Kiyotaka to go out on a date, but suddenly changes her mind when he goes to meet her. When Kushida sees them, Sakura is embarrassed and leaves. Kiyotaka tries to leave, but is stopped by Kushida. When she reverts to her anger personality, she tells him that she could sense his wariness of her, which he confirms. Kushida switches back to her cheerful personality and confesses that she feels lonely when left alone. The next day, the school informs all the students of the real reason behind the trip. They are required to take a survival test on a deserted island for a week. Yosuke explains from the manual how the survival test works. The class gets 300 test points to spend on food and other conveniences, and whatever remains at the end of the week can be exchanged for class points. The class loses test points for injuries, polluting the environment, missing roll calls, and violence against any classes, while Class D determines to tough it out. The girls feel the need to have a portable toilet. The argument aside, Class D determines to save up points. They split up looking for a camping spot, and Kiyotaka is paired with Sakura and Rokusuke Koinji. Kiyotaka leaves Koinji while he and Sakura look for a spot to secure, recalling what Chabashira said about possessing a spot, in that only the designated class leader can do it, and each possession that lasts for 8 hours gets the team one special test point that is only redeemable for class points. Also, by risking 50 test points, the class gets to guess whom the leader from another class is. While looking for a spot, Kiyotaka sees Kohei Katsuragi holding the leader card while talking with classmate Yahiko Totsuka. Class D reconvenes and sets up camp at a spot by the river. Suzune is chosen to be the leader for being responsible and not standing out. While gathering firewood, Kiyotaka, Yamachi, and Sakura find an injured Mio, and Kushida decides to give her some of the fruit his classmates found. The class plans a strategy for spending their points as they set a limit of 180 points to buy 2 meals a day, a toilet, a tent, and 30 for unforeseen situations. However, the class suffers a setback when Koinji withdraws, despite not feeling ill as he claims he is, costing 30 points from Class D. Kiyotaka and Suzune go to reconnoiter the situation at other camps. Class B's camp is set up near a waterfall and operates much like Class D's camp but at a better location. Class A's camp is in a cave that is heavily guarded. Suzune attempts to take a peek, but turns away when Katsuragi summons his security force and warns her that her actions might start a war. Class C's camp is on a beach where, under Ruin's leadership, all points have already been spent, and the class treats this test like a vacation. Ruin did this knowing that they will not be penalized if they had spent all of their test points beforehand. Ruin berates Mio for defying him. That night, someone has secretly broke into the girls' tent and stole the phone from Class D camp. On the 4th day, Class D does more reconnaissance to find out who are the class leaders. Kiyotaka and Sakura meet Ichinase at Class C's camp and learn that everybody except Mio had withdrawn from the test. On the 5th day, Keikaru Izawa finds out that her underwear was stolen. Class D conducts a bag search, but Yamachi finds it in Iki's bag. Kiyotaka takes it, but the girls demand a pat-down. When the pat-down search is conducted, Harada finds Kiyotaka, but reports that he could not find it. Later, he talks with him and decides to take the underwear, knowing that his reputation would be damaged the least for being the culprit, because Karu Izawa is his girlfriend. In response to the item theft incident, trust within Class D erodes and the girls of Class D decide to separate the boys and girls camps. Mio asks Kiyotaka about the opinion for the thief, and he trusts her while telling her that Sudo suspects her. That night, Kiyotaka and Suzune sit by a campfire, and he notices that she has been sick during the entire test. Suzune had been resting in her room during the cruise in order to recover from her illness and is determined to tough it out. The next day, Class D gathers food in advance of a rainstorm. While fishing in the river, Kiyotaka asks Suzune to check the leader card, confirming whether it is real and that Katsuragi was holding. However, he is still unsure after seeing it. Yamachi approaches Suzune and puts mud on her hair, prompting her to throw him to the ground. While Suzune removes the mud from her hair, someone has secretly stole the leader card and allowed Kiyotaka to know about it. Shortly afterwards, someone has set the survival test manual ablaze, leading to even more trust issues for Class D, suspecting that it was Mio's doing while she is from another class. Suzune fails to retrieve her key card from Mio without anyone witnessing the fight. Mio brings the card to a mysterious student. Mio notifies Katsuragi through a ham radio that she has secured Suzune's card. As Class A and Class C are revealed to be working together, the injured Suzune is withdrawn from the test. On the final day, the students remove their camps and the classes guess the leaders, with Class B opting not to make any guesses. At the assembly, Ruin reveals that he secretly forged a pact with Katsuragi to transfer 200 test points to Class A in exchange for the card or the photo. Class C quickly spent the remaining 100 points, and everyone except for Ruin, Mio, and Kaneda, the last of whom was assigned to spy on Class B, withdrawn from the test. Class C would guess the leaders: Yahiko Totsuka for Class A, Chihiro Shiranami for Class B, and Suzune for Class D. The results are revealed, and the winner is Class D with 225 points, followed by Class B with 140 points, Class A with 120 points, and Class C with no points. The students return to the cruise ship, where Arisu Sakayanagi reveals that things went according to plan in making everybody mistrust Katsuragi to weaken his leverage over the class, as her ally Hashimoto secretly outed Class A's leader to Ruin. Kiyotaka tells Suzune that he allowed Mio to steal the card, and Kiyotaka became the leader, replacing Suzune, ensuring that Class A and Class C incorrectly guessed her. As for guessing the other ones, he reveals that he only saw the backside of Katsuragi's card, and knowing how cautious he was, He deduced that Totsuka was Class A's leader. He was aware that Ruin had not withdrawn, leading him to guess him as Class C's leader as he saw him with the same radio Mio used, refusing to jeopardize Class D's alliance with Class B. Kiyotaka opted not to name Class B's leader. Ruin reveals that the main motivation for the alliance with Class A was he would sign a contract to receive 20,000 points from each student of Class A every month until graduation. In a meeting with Chabashira, Kiyotaka finds out from her that the man who wanted him expelled was his father. Kiyotaka tells Chabashira that despite his father's attempts to remove him from school, he will continue to defy him, having told Suzune that she needs allies. Kiyotaka tells Harada that she was responsible for Class D's victory, in order to have others put their trust in her. However, Kiyotaka wants nothing to do with Suzune or anyone in his class, as he only sees them, and humans in general, as tools, and will continue to use and sacrifice others as long as he wins in the end. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe my channel, and turn on the notification bell for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.